Good morning. This is Daily Hebrew Declarations with Daniel Jedediah Cook, and I'm reading the declaration for today, February the 19th, 2021. The three Hebrew letters we're honoring today are Nun, Kuf, and Shin. Along with those three living letters, we're also honoring the spirit of understanding, the spirit of counsel, and the spirit of might. The declaration today reads this picture of Yeshua's teaching that the greatest among you is the servant of all. As we arise from bondage, our bondage is our thinking apart from Yahweh. We are set apart to be holy, a place of action where we cast our crowns at Yahweh's feet so we can be identified in Him. You know, last night at our School of the Living Letters, we were beginning the place of Aleph, and this is our year one school for 2021. And there was a very sweet spirit when we came into the class. But during the day yesterday, Yahweh began to mess with me about this one of the aspects of Aleph. And I know that Aleph is not necessarily one of the letters that we're honoring today, but Aleph wants to speak here as we talk about Nun, Kuf, and Shin. And one of the things that Yahweh had laid onto my heart was the place that Aleph is a silent letter. It is never spoken in Hebrew, ever. Matter of fact, I know some of you may say, well, wait a minute, there are vowels in the Hebrew. Well, first off, there are no letters that are specifically vowels. There are vowel sounds that are attached to the consonants themselves. Hebrew is made up of only consonants. And so in that place, when an ah or an a sound or something along the lines where we would think an a would be, isn't necessarily the case because it's the sound is attached to the consonant. Let's say the living letter bait, which is kind of like our B, kinda. Hebrew goes so much deeper. The living letters are so much deeper than that. But just as a way of giving you an analogy to understand, for those of you that are still learning the living letters. And so in that place, the Aleph remains silent. And so there was an aspect of Aleph that really began to mess with me, and that was the silence of Aleph. One of our year two students on Tuesday night began to speak about this, and I spoke about it the other day in our declaration about the place of silence and really the authority in silence that helps us to navigate the now. And it really began to mess with me. And it reminded me of an old song that I had heard back when I was a young kid. And many of you may recognize the song or may know the song, but it was a song by the group called Simon and Garfunkel. And the name of the song was called "A Sound of Silence." And you see, the sound of silence really begins to speak of a really deep perspective. I never realized how deep it was until just about a year or so ago when the song came back up to me again anyway. And I know when I was a kid, one of the things that I used to think about was the fact that my parents had told me and others had told me that darkness was something that I needed to be afraid of. That darkness was evil and it was wrong. And now don't get me wrong, there is a darkness that is evil. But there is also a darkness hidden in Hebrew that's called koshek. You see, koshek is a place of darkness. It's a place of, if you will, the way that I heard Ian Clayton say this was that it was veiled light, or that it was concealed light, and that's kind of the way that I see it is veiled light. But yet at the same time, I know that when Yeshua died on the cross, he rent the veil of the tabernacle asunder. It fell apart. Well, that was just an outward expression of what had happened in the spirit realm. Because I believe that same veil that had separated us between the light of Yahweh and understanding a lot of the light of Yahweh was also rent in two. And that there was an open path, an open way that Yahweh's light could shine abroad into all the earth. Period. Now there's a lot more to that, and I don't have time to go into it right now. But let's just say this. When I see the first part of this song where it says, "Hello, darkness, my old friend," I don't there when Yahweh began to point this out to me, instead of me seeing it as a part of the evil darkness, I began to see it as that of the place of Koshek. You see, Koshek is the place of the mysteries, the riddles, the secrets. These are the place where things are hidden. Think about during the days when the sailors would go out onto the water. The only way that they would be able to know how to navigate is at night. It was the stars that gave them the better navigation than it was during the day. They could see and they could align up with stars that they knew would move or wouldn't move, and then be able to figure out their path from those stars that are in the sky and where they sat in the sky. So you see, it was the darkness, if you will. It was the place of the night that allowed them to be able to find the way into where their treasure was. It's funny because when we look at the old treasure maps, when I think about those old movies, I think about the X that marks the spot in the middle of the movie, right? So where the pirates are going, or the ship is out on its way to find that hidden treasure. They're following this treasure map to the place of where the X marks the spot. And when I look at the paleo version of Tav, Tav is the living letter that talks about completion and fullness. And it's funny, I just realized that I'm speaking of both of the beginning and the finishing in today's declaration. We're talking about Nun, we're talking about Kuf, we're talking about Shin, but Aleph and Tav are talking as well. The beginning and the finishing, the beginning and the completion. All right, and so in this place, that the paleo version of Tav is an X, and so it reminds me of this place of saying, this is the fullness of the completion, when we're able to find the treasure hidden away in the darkness. And there's several places in Scripture. I'm thinking of one in Deuteronomy right now, where it talks about the treasures hidden in the darkness that are brought out to the light. Again, Ian Clayton has spoken about that in bringing those things out of that darkness into the light itself. And I want to honor Ian and others who have spoken about this as well. I know I have. I know Apostle Aaron here has at Gates of Zion. So in this place, you see, we are beginning to realize that we are not held in bondage. I want to talk about Nun. I want to talk about Kuf. And I want to talk about Shin in this declaration today as well. Because see, Nun talks about that of being a son, a king, and an heir, and a priest. That is who we are. When we spoke about Aleph yesterday, we were talking about the place of Aleph and its silence, and what that silence has brought about. And the song goes on to say it, and actually gives a kind of a negative aspect, but it really reminds me of all the things that are going on in the world today. When we talk about our masks that we're wearing right now, it's an outward expression, really, of an inward thing where people how do I say that? Where there has been a choice to silence our own voices. In other words, there's a spiritual, the masks that we wear now are an outward aspect of what we have done. We have chosen to be silent. It's time to not be silent anymore. It's time to speak. Silence has a voice. Silence is speaking. And the sons of Almighty Yahweh are rising up in the place of who we are, in the identity of who we are. And we're standing in that place of saying, we know who we are. We are the sons that are spoken of in Romans 8, who are rising up and who are taking their place in the earth. We're establishing the kingdom of the earth because the kingdom has been deposited inside of us. And as we speak that kingdom into the earth, the kingdoms of this world become the kingdoms of our God and of his Messiah. And he will reign forever because we are establishing what Yahweh has already put on the inside of us. The Nun, the Son, the King, the Heir, and the Priest, the Kuf, the one who stands beyond time. You see, when I look at Kuf, I see this place of being beyond time. That there, where time does exist, but yet in the same breath, we're not bound by time. We're not in bondage to time. Why? Because the shin of the action, the accomplishment, the doing something, the fire of Almighty Yahweh inside of us that is burning as it begins to light this world, as it begins to set on flame the people of Almighty Yahweh, so that the light of Almighty Yahweh can be seen in what appears to be a dark world. So, hello, Koshek, my old friend. It's time that we begin to reveal the fullness of Yahweh inside of us.